Hello, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge. And today we are going over my August read books. Before we dive into my wrap up, if you would be so kind as to hit the subscribe button down there, give this video a like, and as we're going through this video, make some comments on which books you were maybe surprised what they rated them. There's some that maybe you liked that I didn't like. I would love to hear. My channel is all about communicating that way, and if you subscribe to me, I put up 2 to 3. It's more been like 3 to 4 lately because I've been really inspired with different things I've been putting out. You can also catch me on Twitter, Instagram, or my Facebook page, all of the links of which are below. So without further ado, let's get into what I read this month. So I read 10 books. This month I had 1 2.5 star, 1 3.5 star, 2 4 stars, 3 4.5 stars, and 3 5 stars. I will put all that I just said right up here because that was really convoluted, but you know. So let's get started with the book I liked the least, which I was really sad about, but you know, you can't fight it. If you feel that way about the book, I gotta be honest about it. I'm not about, you know, peppering or softening the blow. I don't know. But the book I liked the least was Blood Will Out by Joe Trigari. Sorry if I said that wrong, Joe. Your name is beautiful. I just can't pronounce things. So this book, I'll give just the fast synopsis on this. This is about a girl named Ari. She wakes up at the bottom of a cistern, which is kind of like a well, but they were on farms and they would like hold different things in them like back in the day. And she wakes up in the bottom of this, all kind of like beaten up. And she has no idea how she got there. She doesn't remember events too clearly. So for the first half of this book, we're kind of struggling through with her where she is, you know, calling for help, trying to figure out how she can get out, as well as remembering the events that led her, you know, up until when her mind goes blank. And then no spoilers with this. You know, I'm going to be putting up a spoiler review for this soon as I have the time. Emoji-thon starting, so it's been a little busy. But then the second half of the book is about trying to figure out who did that to her. And so the one teeny bit of spoiler is just that nobody like fully believes how they got there. Like they think maybe it was an accident or she did some, you know, she fell in there herself. And so it was just so frustrating. And I hate the trope in YA where all adults think you're nuts, because I don't know what kind of adults are in your life. And I know that's sometimes needed to tell a story. Like you want the kids to be the ones who are right and that are pushing forward. But it bothered me a little too much. Like I said, I'll go more into this to the review that I will make for it. But for me, this was a 2.5 stars. The hook was great. The beginning of it was super, like I was in it. I flew through it, but then it lost me because I just got so frustrated that by the end of it, I was kind of like skimming because I was like, So this was my 2.5. My 3.5, and already we're into books that I loved. It was a good book month for me. And looking now at like how all my books stacked up, I almost wish I had rated this even higher. But I just am really kind of strict with my YA contemporary, as you know. But I read Meet the Sky by McCall Hoyle, which was such a pleasant book. I had a great time reading this. Again, I read it really fast, and I feel that maybe if I'd read it a little slower, maybe I would have enjoyed it even more, but I was just in the mood to like fly through a book. But this is about a girl named Sophie, and she gets trapped with an ex-crush of hers on the Outer Banks of South Carolina when a hurricane comes in, and her and him have to, you know, deal with feelings that they've had, as well as there is some great danger in this situation. Someone gets hurt and they do actually have to survive quite a few days as a hurricane rips through the area and they get stranded there together. How they get stranded and what happens while they are, well, you'll have to read to find out. But a 3.5 for a contemporary is by no means a low score for me. Like I said, I just have really high standards, but it was such a fun, quick read. It's about 40 pages. It was really enjoyable. So definitely check it out. At this tail end of summer, it could be a nice, quick beach read for you if you wanted to. Next, we are into my 4-star reads already. The first one that I read this month was... let me pick the right one. The Alienist by Caleb Carr, which this was an adult historical fiction mystery, which is a little bit outside of my normal like reading things, but I watched the TV show for this with Daniel Bruhl, Dakota Fanning, and Luke Evans, and I loved it so much. And there's a second book in this series called Angel of Darkness, which I had wanted to read, but I figured I'd better read this first before finding out what was happening next. Spoiler alert, not for the book, but for life. They are going to make a second season about Angel of Darkness, so now I definitely have to read the book. But each book in this like series changes perspective, and the person that the next one's perspective is from, I wasn't too crazy about, so when it gets closer to the TV show, and again, like I really liked seeing the TV show without knowing what was going on. So I may do the same thing where I watch the show and then read the book to fill myself in. But this book was very enjoyable. It was able to fill in the characters even more since on a TV show, it's not in the person's head. So I really like this. This is from the perspective of John Skylar Moore, who, if you have seen the TV show, that's Luke Evans' character, and he was like my favorite character in the show, and I just enjoyed him even more in the book. Caleb Carr has a great writing style. It's a little bit draggy in some places, but because I liked the character so much, like I was okay with it. But just to warn you, maybe that might be too much for you. If you need your mysteries to like stay rolled. This was definitely a relaxed, even though the stakes were very high. So it's very interesting. I didn't even say what the stakes were because I'm just like, read this book. But it's a mystery, so I don't want to say too much. But it's called The Alienist because back at the turn of the century, psychologists were called alienists because they believed, not the psychiatrists, the people at large believed that if you had mental illness, that you were alienated from your true self. And so Dr. Laszlo Kreisler, he was a psychologist, and so he's called the Alienist. And they are trying to solve the crime of a serial killer in New York. And it's really exciting because like Teddy Roosevelt was the police commissioner at this time, so we get lots of interactions with him, and it was so much fun. So this was dark though, but I had a great time. So it was outside my normal purview, and I'm glad I gave it a chance. Ooh, I gotta pick this up, guys. I'm already dragging, and I'm only doing 3. Can you remember when I had like 16 books on these? These were like a half hour long. Anyway, next is My Plain Jane by Cynthia Han, Brody Ashton, and Jodi Meadows. This was a quirky retelling / reimagining of Jane Eyre, and one of the characters actually is Charlotte Bronte, who in the story is Jane Eyre's best friend, and Jane sees ghosts. So you find out Thornfield Hall is maybe a little bit haunted, which we all kind of suspected anyway, didn't we? Because, things that happen. I buddy read this with Hannah at Hannah's Books and Other Things, who is a delight. I love her so much. If for some reason you're following me and not following her, I will put her down below because she is awesome. And we had, just this last Sunday, we had a fun talk about the book. We didn't record it because it was the first time we were talking, and we just wanted to enjoy each other and not feel weird about having to, live stream and have people comment on it and everything. But we definitely want to buddy read in the future, and hopefully we can share it with you guys next time. But yeah, she's awesome, and we had a great time with this book. It was wonderful. This book has been all around, so I really need to continue on. But I gave it a 4 stars, and I enjoyed it. It was a bit tough at the beginning to get into what kind of style of story this is. That's really why I took a star off, is because the first 120 pages, I was clawing through it, and I'm really glad I was buddy reading it because I might have given up, and it got really good. And now we are into my 4.5 stars already. I have 6 books that are 4.5 or better. I gotta get going through this. So number 1 for a 4.5 stars was Contagion. Sorry, this is gonna be weird and light, by Erin Bowman. I loved this book, loved it so much. The only reason it's not a 5 star is because it was really confusing. And I know some people, that'd be cool. This is a science fiction for sure, and they'd be okay with that. But I just felt like it was really hard to put the pieces together. And again, that might be me and not this book. So don't blame the book, because the book was great. I critique differently than other people, and that's the fun of being a booktuber, is you get to do it your way. But this is about this crew of people who they are on a mining planet, and there's a big storm coming. And at the same time that they're about to evacuate their planet, there is a distress call. Excuse me, it's such hard words today. A distress call that comes from another nearby, well, not nearby, it's a ways away planet, but they're the closest ones to it. And so a group of 7 people get sent, including, sorry, I forgot her name, which is awful, because Thea. Sorry, I read this at the beginning of the month, so forgive me. Thea, who is an intern to a microbiologist, and she gets sent along with as well. And there is a contagion, and it got in them, and most everyone is dead. That's what the tagline is. And it says, help is light years away. This had a huge cliffhanger. Was not expecting that. The next one doesn't come out till next year. Erin, please write as fast as you can. I'm so excited, but I loved Thea, and it's one of those that it was part horror, part science fiction, because there's a disease, and the disease worked a little bit like the one in Illuminate, if you know what I mean, and if you don't, that's fine. You don't need to know. Read the book, you'll find out. And so I enjoyed those aspects of it. It's blurbed by Amy Kaufman, and I found this book because I follow Jay Kristoff on Instagram, and he was repping this book. I think it's by, no, it's not by an Australian. I thought it was, because they're Australian, maybe they did, but she's fabulous. I can't wait for more. This was awesome. Then, this was the first book I read of the month. I also have a review up for this one, and it's I Am Still Alive by Kate Alice Marshall, which is also the group pick for Emoji-a-thon starting September 1st. And so I'm happy because I already read this one, so it can like count and everything. But this was so exciting. This is about Jess, who gets sent to live with her father, and then after being with him for like a couple weeks, her father dies. Not a spoiler. It's in the thing. And they burn down the cabin and leave Jess, herself, and her dad's dog, Bo, who you will fall in love with. I love Bo so much. This big dog who is her protector and friend and like only companion while she's alone. And Jess knows that these men will be coming back, the men who killed her father, because they've left something behind that they're going to want. And so Jess decides that she is going to stay alive and get revenge for her father and get out, because these men will come back in a helicopter or a plane. And so this was a 4.5 for just a couple of reasons. Jess is not perfectly capable. And the mantra in this book, again, I say all this in my review, I'm sorry, but I love this book, is she's like, you don't have to be the biggest or the strongest, but you need to be the smartest. And so she really works at coming at problems from a smart angle, which is good because she's not a huge brawny chick. She's a 16-year-old girl who has all the strengths and weaknesses. In fact, even more weaknesses, because Jess has an injury from a car accident, so she can't walk completely properly. So she does have some hindrances for her. And anyway, I was saying why I knocked a star is because there's a very convenient like plot thing about Jess and planes that I will leave a secret. Maybe either intrigue you to watch my review or to check it out yourself, because it was great and I loved it. It was fabulous. I'm really into like books where you're like left behind and like have to survive right now. Like I've literally bought like 3 more books like that recently that I was reading. So, all right, rounding off my 4.5 stars is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I loved this book. I read it completely between Saturday and Sunday. So like I read it within 24 hours, which was crazy. This was sold to me as being like Twilight / Harry Potter, but yet it's like an adult novel because the main character is 33 and the vampire in this story, you know, is 1500 years old, which I haven't shared this too much because, you know, there hasn't been any good books. Well, no, how am I wording this? There hasn't been any good books in the genre that I like to come out recently because they've kind of fallen on the wayside. And even so, this book is from like 2011 maybe. When did this book come out? Yeah, this book came out in 2011, which was the height of like the vampire craze, you know. But I love a good vampire story, especially one that's not just like a sex tale. Like it's actually about like something interesting where they're like fighting someone or working together. And so anyway, the main character in this is Diana Bishop, and she's a witch, but she's been hiding her powers because she doesn't want to like be a witch. And she is researching a paper or like something she's supposed to be doing, and this vampire starts like showing up there, and like witches and vampires and demons, they can all recognize each other, but like the humans don't recognize them. And the whole thing is, you know, make sure the humans don't recognize, because not so much because like they care what the humans think, but because humans outnumber the creatures, and you know, we humans tend to get scared if there's fantastical things. So it's that kind of thing. Stay hidden so that we stay safe kind of thing. But anyway, I loved this. Most of the comments on Goodreads were that it was really slow moving. And I mean, there was other critiques, and that's fine. But for me, I was in for the slow part of it. Like the romance wasn't insta-love. There was instant attraction. And like Diana is like, I mean, he's a vampire, he's gorgeous, you know, but they build their chemistry by how they work together. And so by the time there's something going on, I was there for it. And this book took its time. It's 560 pages, so it's long. But it was so good. So for me, it was a 4.5 because this is exactly kind of what I was craving, but I've kind of just turned my heart away from vampire romances because there hasn't been any like really good ones lately for me to read, but this just reawakened it. And so I bought the next two books, and so far the second book isn't holding up as well as this one did to me, because there's a plot twist that it's not cliche, like it's fine, but I just don't like it. But still, I'm in love with Diana and Matthew, and so I'm willing to wait. But this was a 4.5. Just 3 more books to go, and they're my 5-star. But these ones will go pretty quick because they're all also books that I've talked about before. So I finished The Loving Cup, which was the 10th book in the Poldark series. These books are always 5-star for me. Winston Graham is... I wish he has written a few other books. So when I finish this series, I'll try to read. Actually, he's written a lot of books. Wow. Look at me. Supposedly he's one of my favorite authors, but it's only because I've read this series. I'll have to look into his other stuff. But The Loving Cup, this was great. Everything good kind of happened in this book. Like people got away with things they should have. People got married that you were happy they got married. But I'm reading The Twisted Sword now, which is the 11th book, and all of the stuff is like falling apart that happened, which is good, because things were a little too perfect at the end of this book, which I gave it 5 stars because I love the characters and I was happy they were happy. But I was also like, this can't be this happy. Like, things gotta happen. So also it's like during the time of like the Napoleonic Wars, which were a pain in the ass to the people who lived in England and France and all that stuff. So they're dealing with that. But anyway, read this series if you like historical. Like, just do it. There was Obsidian, which I listened to on audio. I should tell you that my 2 audiobooks this month were Obsidian and The Loving Cup, because I finished listening to this series after I had already read it, and now I listened to it. And it's fantastic. I need to do a series wrap up for this. Hopefully I will soon. I know there's a lot of videos and there's Emoji-a-thon starting, and it's a lot of things to get through. But 5-star, I don't need to say anymore. And then finally, but not leastly, is Graceling by Kristen Kishore. This was my reread as well as my retro review this month, which I'll link on up there because I love this book, and it deserved a retro review, and I had so much fun rereading it. It was just as fun as every other time. In fact, I'd said in my review that I love Poe even more than I ever have before, because as an adult now, I see how like smart and gentle and kind he is, and how supportive he is of Katza, and that he's not your normal like Prince Charming who rides in and solves all the problems. but he helps Katza talk through things. Like, she's gung-ho, fight, she's strong and powerful, and he's like, yes, you are, and I know you could beat my ass, but let's talk through this situation, because action first isn't always the right answer. So I love Poe. I love the Graceling. I hope that you will have checked out my retro review for this, as well as get yourself a copy. It is such a good story. So friends, that is everything I read in the month of August. Crazy. I'm super excited going into Emoji-a-thon. My video for that will be live on August 31st. So if you're watching this after that, you can go ahead and click into that and see that has my TBR for September. But there's already a ton other like great books. Like my Barnes & Noble was having a book blowout today, so I've just bought 4 more books. Anyway, I'll stop talking now. Please, thank you for subscribing, liking, and commenting below. It means so much to me. And thanks for coming to the Book Refuge, a fun, safe place for us to talk and be friends. Have a great day, guys. Bye.